Good afternoon. You're listening to Cannabis Corner on WNHHLP 103.5 FM, broadcasting live from downtown New Haven. We're streaming live on TuneIn Radio and NewHavenIndependent.org. We're also streaming live video on Facebook and YouTube. Just go to your Facebook page, look us up, and hit see first to see and hear all the great programs that we have here on WNHHLP. And Cannabis Corner is also streaming live on Greenhaven Media Facebook and ProCannabisMedia.com. So check us out, like, share, and subscribe. Welcome, everybody. It is Monday, November the 10th, 2025. Welcome to Cannabis Corner. I am your host, Joe LaChance, Joe the Weed Guy. And I, of course, am joined by the one and only inimitable Uncle Lou, Farmer Lou. How are you today, my brother?
I'm doing all right. Better than recent days. As you know, I tore my ACL 2 weeks back or something like that. So it's just been slow moving on a lot of things. You know what I mean?
Right. And it's a little painful too, right?
Oh, very painful, but it's all good. We pushed through. Other than that, have been enjoying the weather. It's been gorgeous out, brother.
The weekend was wonderful. Yeah. It was a beautiful thing. Today not so great.
No.
But that
it's New England fall.
Yeah, that didn't stop me from taking my walk. I took my nice walk today, made sure I got my exercise in.
There you go.
Yeah, I got to do that. Stay healthy.
Just a little bit of a walk around the block can do so much for every individual, and that's just trying to keep the ticker alive, keep that heart going.
Well, that's what people don't realize. It's so good for your circulation. You have a circulatory system. We even have an electrical system in our body, and the movement actually helps generate more of that electricity in your body. But a lot of people don't get that part of us. But yeah, just moving around actually helps circulation, not only circulation of blood, but circulation of the electrical current within your body. So it's very cool, especially when you do it outside. That really helps.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. But so yeah, how was your weekend, bro?
And so far, so good. I did not get to travel to any of the awesome events that have been going on, and there's a ton of stuff that, this is that convention season. This is that time when events are happening, where there's gatherings. So it's a good time to be out in the community, touching base, checking out people as well. It's tough times for all as we go into the holiday.
Well, at least the government. The almighty government reopened,
The government, they passed something in the Senate. It's the first step to reopening. They didn't reopen.
Yeah.
So it's still that movement, here in Connecticut was awesome because, those who get coupons in Spanish, we call it SNAP. I'm sorry. In Spanish, we call it coupones. So it's, it's a simple term of
the food stamps.
Food stamps.
Yeah.
SNAP, WIC, all of that went out. It's helped so many people, a lot of our elderly community, a lot of our children, keeps people with some basic health needs. And
I'm not going to lie, I'm on SNAP. I'm on Social Security, and
you're also a senior citizen, Joe.
I am a senior citizen, yes.
We love you, and sometimes we forget that Joe the Weed Man looks very young and is out there and everything, but brother, with all respect to your experience, you are a gentleman who has made it through the ages, and I hope to gain as much experience in years as you do. I won't throw your age out there, but you are over the respective senior citizen age.
I don't mind. I'm 65, and
That's
what?
Right.
I'm turning 66 this month, and it's on a Monday, November 24th. It's 2 weeks from today. So let's have a special birthday show.
We're about it. We are about it.
A lot of people don't know. 65 is important, maybe legally, but spiritually, 66 is a very important age.
Yeah.
Because it's twice 33, and if you know anything about the numbers, 33 is a very key age in a man or in a person's life. A lot of life changes. Just it's just because for a lot of reasons. But Jesus died at 33. There are 33 vertebrae in the spine. As you know, there are 33 levels to
Mm-hmm.
Freemasonry. There's something very important about that number, but double 33, it's almost like you get a second rejuvenation. So I can't wait.
That's right, brother. You know, and you put this energy out there and you keep going. It's not like you're just sitting home. You're not a 65-year-old man who sits home and does nothing. You're out in the
Oh,
community.
hell
You're out
no.
there, you know. So 100%, that's where we say these things are needed for our communities, for our elderly, for our children, and for those who just need that little help over. You know,
Yeah, I mean, it's
we
important
see it
because
all.
I see people my age who are not in anywhere near the shape I'm in. You know,
Yeah,
they're going to doctors every week, they're having dialysis. Some of them are on the oxygen machine, you know. And it's like, I feel very grateful and lucky that at some point in my life, I realized, you know, and it came in different levels. You know what I
right,
mean? At first, it was I had to give up the drugs. You know what I mean? I was
right.
very young, 25 years old, and the alcohol and all that stuff. And that's one level of it. And then I had to realize, you know, that not only do you have to give that up, you also have to maybe do something about your diet. You got to eat better. You got to get more exercise. And then you got to try and reestablish your spiritual base. Because a lot of times when you're doing the kind of stuff I did, you lose that. You totally lose your connection with your higher self or whatever higher power you want to call.
One
And
hundred
so,
percent, Joe.
and that takes time. And even now at 65, I still have to dig deep to figure out who the hell I really am. You know, because there's been so many layers of different personalities, different things that I've done. You know, it's like programming in your head. And you get to a certain age where you realize that maybe not all that was right. You know, maybe that's not who I really am, and that's not how the world really is. So
Right. You
it's a
know,
never ending process, and I'm very excited about the guests we have on today. But I did want to mention I went to the Thanksgiving event at Burn and Learn this weekend,
okay.
and it was great. It's early this year because we didn't want to conflict with the Connecticut Thanksgiving, which is this Sunday on the
Oh, look at
16th.
that.
So yeah, finally the two groups coordinated, and they're not holding their party on the same day because, as you know, last year's Thanksgiving party was actually my birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
So for my 65th birthday, and they both had it on the same day. But this year, Connecticut is having their Thanksgiving party on the 16th. You can find out more about that at Connecticut.com and obviously all their social media. And I also wanted to give a big shout out to the Harvest Fest that was this weekend. That's a legacy event, and I want to support everybody who went there. Unfortunately, both you and I couldn't make it, but
Oh yeah, I couldn't.
we were at the first one. I think that's what matters.
And we've enjoyed a ton of them.
I had the booth. I had a booth
Yeah.
there. I supported them. So, but I'm really excited about the guests we have on because his name is Joshua White, and he is the founder of the Marijuana Maintenance Program, and it's called MMP. And at its core, it's an opiate and alcohol drug replacement therapy group that operates similar to Vivitrol, methadone, or Suboxone, except they suggest the use of CBD, CBG, CBN, and THC and terpenes as a way to help people fend off the thrails of addiction and self-harmful behavior. They work in conjunction with resources and treatment therapy, 12-step recovery programs, and standard rehabilitation. The members have sought and found recovery through compassionate use of marijuana, cannabis, and its many incredible forms. We now support more than 4,000 plus nationwide that have utilized cannabis as a tool to subvert and fend off the thrails of addiction, and self-harmful behavior. We believe a multifaceted approach to recovery is the only way to find lasting change and happiness. They have many resources to share. So I want to welcome to the show Joshua White, the founder of Marijuana Maintenance Program. Joshua, how are you today?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate you for having me on and inviting me on as a guest. And I'm really looking forward to kind of explaining what MMP is and what we do.
Well, I'm very curious because I met actually one of your members. You have members in Connecticut. I want people
Yes.
to know this is nationwide. It's virtual right now. And he expressed to me the idea of actually starting to set up in-person meetings here in Connecticut. And that really kind of intrigued me because, full disclosure, I am, I guess, in recovery since 1984. I spent 10 years in the program, completely,
Congratulations on
completely
your.
clean and sober. Now, after 10 years, I decided to start using cannabis again.
Okay.
And lo and behold, nothing bad happened to me. I didn't start drinking again. I didn't start using cocaine again. I didn't start going to hookers again. I didn't go back to my old self. But yet, I still missed the camaraderie of the meetings. But I did not feel comfortable going there using
Yeah.
cannabis. You know what I mean? Because this was a few years ago. This is the 90s. It
Yeah.
wasn't widely accepted to use cannabis and still go to meetings.
Yep.
They would look down on you. And so it kind of took that resource away from me. And I always thought there should be meetings for people who are sober but used cannabis instead of pharmaceuticals, and that meaning, like you say, Suboxone and all that, but also the mental ones, the SSRIs and all that. So I'm glad that you have done this. Tell us a little bit about your story and what motivated you to actually get this thing going. Because, like I said, I thought of it, but I didn't actually do it. You did.
Well, I tell you, it was a long, hard fought battle against addiction. And I first heard the term marijuana maintenance when I was 12 or 13 years old. The first time they sent me through rehab, and I went to an AA meeting. An old timer there. I came through the door, and the guy said, "We can smell that you're on marijuana maintenance. Just give us your paper. We'll sign it, and you can leave." And he actually signed 30 days worth of meetings
Just to keep you out of the meeting.
just to tell me to go ahead and leave. He said, "You're not going to get any of this anyway. You can go ahead and leave." Which, I mean, I showed up reeking of cannabis to an
Could have
AA
put
meeting.
on some cologne,
I could have, I could have had a little bit more couth, but I was young and I was very anti-government, anti-everything.
Well, I hope you still are.
Yeah, well, very much so. Basically, so that's where the terminology came from. Actually, it's not something I came up with. The term marijuana maintenance was
No,
used
I had
for
heard
people.
that before too.
Yeah, it was for people that used cannabis in place of alcohol, and the true alcoholics, the old AAs, Bill W. and his compadres, came up with the term to define who we
Yeah,
were. So they
and
could,
it's
so
evolved.
they could ID us at meetings and be like, "That guy's on marijuana maintenance."
Yes.
He's gonna, and they would
Yes.
ostracize us and keep us out. And so that initial interaction with AA kept me out for a decade. I
Mm-hmm.
went back out. I said, "Oh, I got my 30 days signed. Great. I will turn these in one at a time. I'll be off probation in 12 months and back about my life." And that's exactly what I did. And a decade later, I came back through the doors again. I made it about 18 months white knuckling it, just really just trying to be completely abstinent, which I will admit that there are many people out there that require 100% abstinence to remain in recovery.
I believe I did.
And for those people that are sober, I try to reserve that word for them. Sober is a very important word to them. Being sober is something that they work on very diligently to not have any substances they consider to be against ordinance, other than sugar, coffee, and all of the pharmaceuticals the doctors will give you.
Which in a lot of cases are a lot more harmful than cannabis, right?
In most cases.
Here's what I found part of the hypocrisy of the group. If you had a prescription for opioids you could still come to the group. Or if
Mhm.
you were on Suboxone, or if you were on methadone, as long as it was prescribed, you could still come to the groups. And this is both for AA and NA.
Yep.
And there was no problem as long as you had that prescription. But yet, even if you had a medical marijuana card, they wouldn't let you in the group.
It
You
was
know?
deemed an outside issue for those other substances. They actually wrote into the literature later. It wasn't written anywhere in the actual Alcoholics Anonymous literature anything about
Well, they're only dealing with alcohol.
exactly. They had nothing to say whatsoever about any drugs outside of alcohol. They did it literally wasn't in their literature.
No, they didn't
Yes.
care.
But the pamphlets they released later, that were their group conscious pamphlets that they came up with many years later, did kind of address it and said that psychiatric drugs or drugs that were given by a doctor were considered an outside issue to Alcoholics Anonymous. They didn't have anything to say. As long as you had a desire to stop drinking, you could be a fellow member.
Right.
Which I used that as my argument for a lot of years in traditional recovery when I tried to be in regular recovery, which I did many, many times. I tattooed AA onto my body. I really wanted recovery badly.
Yeah.
But for me, I couldn't not use something. I was run over by a lawnmower when I was 3 years old. Terrible. My left
Right.
leg was terribly wounded. That was the first time I ever had narcotics. Was at 3. They shot me full of morphine on the helicopter ride to
Right.
Chicago. To go to Shriners Hospital where I stayed for a year. And they
And
pumped
was that your drug of choice?
Yes.
Opioids? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
In
there you
the
go.
end, it took a long time to get back to that place where it was opioids, but in the end, that was ultimately the feeling I was going for, and because that was the first one I ever felt that was synthetically heavy.
Yeah.
You know, um, and when you fast forward a bunch of years, a bunch of in and out of recovery and trying to get it, not getting it, and trying to be within their circles, and then making it a little while, and then hiding that I was using cannabis, which,
Right.
or coming in using cannabis and saying, well, I'm just going to go here anyway and just not talk about cannabis. I'll use perfume. I'll make sure I don't smell when I'm at meetings. But you're lying the whole
Yeah.
time.
You feel like a
And you're
hypocrite,
and,
and you
and
almost
the preface of recovery is honesty. The
you gotta
first
be
thing is
truthful,
you
right?
get real honest with yourself, real honest with yourself, and then you remain that way during these steps, during these points, right? So
You'd be
this time,
surprised how many people are out there who think the same way, who use weed and don't feel comfortable going to meetings. This is why it intrigued me. I have at least 5 friends who are the same way.
well, I can tell you that when we started. Okay, so we fast forward some years. I decided, I lost everything after a decade of holding things together, white knuckling it. Lost the family, lost the house, lost the cars, lost the job, lost everything the country song tells you you're going to lose, right? And threw it all out in a bottle or whatnot. And I decided I was going to go back into recovery again. But this time I went into it with the idea that I was going to use marijuana maintenance instead of these drugs they were trying to give me, which at the time was Suboxone.
Right.
And I had already done the methadone thing back way before that, and that just never worked for me. It was always like, I'll just cold turkey it, and I'll live, and I'll end up going back to smoking later, which is what always happened. I went into this rehab. I was talking about how I was only going to use the Suboxone for the first 10 days I was there, and they're like, well, if you stop taking the Suboxone, we have to kick you out today.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so you're just a legal dope pusher, and you're telling me if I don't use your product, you're making me leave your house. Sounds like every trap house I've ever been in.
It's the same thing.
So basically, at that moment, I decided to devote myself to using marijuana maintenance to stay in recovery. And at that point, I wrote the 7 points of recovery. So,
I wanted to get to that, the whole structure of your program, but I also, did you continue to go to meetings while using marijuana and be more open about it?
the way this worked,
Because what I'm getting is you were able to stay off the substance, the opioids, as long as you were able to do marijuana, but you wanted the fellowship and the steps, I'm assuming, because a lot of people don't understand how life changing, if you really do the steps, can be. You wanted that resource, and were you still finding a little resistance to that, or had it loosened up by then?
So at
Because
that
I know
point,
there was no looseness when I went, but you're talking maybe not that long ago.
I was fully, and locally, everyone. I mean, we're not a humongous town, but everyone here knew who I was already. So coming into traditional meetings, just walking through the door, they're like, we don't want you talking your rhetoric here. And
Even
they
if
would
it's
literally
NA, even NA too.
NA and AA both. There was
Wow.
a very clear line drawn in the sand, this imaginary line that I had crossed by subverting people into this lifestyle of using cannabis as a recovery tool.
Oh, so you had other? Okay, I got you.
Yeah, there were people from their meetings that were immediately like, "Oh yeah, I do that anyway. I'm just
Right.
leaving
See,
there."
that's amazing how you find out how many people actually do it.
Well, at first, like I said, this was 2019. It was still sort of standoffish. It was very standoffish in the recovery community for sure. And so we were having live meetings. This was pre-COVID, right?
And
so
was it
having
just a
live
group of
meetings.
people that you knew
Yeah, we were
through the
working.
AA who felt the same way you did? So like 5 or
We
6
pulled,
you
the, we
said.
pulled the Wolf of Wall Street. We're like, I use cannabis as recovery. Anybody coming with me? And a bunch of people came with me, and it was just me and my group of like 9
And
or
you
10
did it by
friends.
Zoom?
No, this was live meetings at the
Oh,
time.
you had group meetings, okay.
Yes, we were live in-person meetings. And we were built up. We were getting to where we were having, 9 or 10 people showing up.
Oh, and
we
then
were
COVID.
getting a nice, good core of recovering people. And they announced COVID.
Yeah. I know that feeling. Point, trust me.
Now, listen, the other part is at that point, there had been a group of people that previously were like, well, we want to do these online on Zoom. And I'm like, no, what is a Zoom? Nobody does that. I want to do live meetings. We're going to get brick and mortar meetings where you're at. We'll send, you can be the lead wherever you're at.
Wear masks, we'll social distance.
So needless to say, my meetings went from 9 people to me sitting in a warehouse by myself with a plant, talking to the plant.
To the plant for advice.
And I relapsed.
Right. See, that's it. A lot of people did during COVID.
Yep. I relapsed, and I stayed relapsed for like a almost 9-month period during COVID because there was complete, I could be at my house. I was getting money.
And why not? You had no responsibility.
It was terrible. It was a terrible happenstance, right? So, needless to say, I came out the other side of that. I decided amidst COVID and amidst all that, like, look, I've got to do something. And I found out that the people that had kind of split off from me and that were doing these Zoom meetings were all still sober.
Wow.
And here, me and my 9 friends, half of them were dead, literally. And
because they all relapsed. Yeah.
Half of us were all using. And it's like, so, the fellowship is more important than growing the plant. The fellowship is as important as working the 12 steps. Because at the time, I hadn't really developed the 7 points. We were still using the traditional Bill W. and Dr. Bob written 12 steps, which, if you know anything about the 12 steps, Bill W. and Dr. Bob used the Oxford Group's 6 principles to develop 12 steps. And while Oxford Group is a Christian organization, while they are a Christian organization, they developed the 6 principles from the Eightfold Path of Self-Mastery as taught
by Buddha.
Yes, as taught by the Buddhists. That's how they got their 6 principles. So I kind of went and studied each of those. And along the way, I had posed a question to my friends and everyone of how I could separate myself from the financial world and still survive. Because at the time I was the hospice care for 115 nursing homes and doing all of the hospice billing for all of those at one time. That was my life. And I wanted to step away from it terribly. It was hard to do. It was hard work to do, period.
You're dealing with death all the time.
End of life and just taking people's houses and how this corrupt machine that works.
Once you see it, you
how the end of it works is just despicable, So anyway, I was trying to step away, and my dad actually said, well, you should get you a little brown robe and some praying beads and go become a monk, because that's probably the only way that's going to happen. And at that moment it clicked, and I really started studying what the Eightfold Path was and how they had described this way to self-mastery. It was just a way to attain self-mastery. You are in charge of you based off of the virtues that you live by, these moral guideline, whatever that may be for yourself. And
absolutely.
So when it came to the steps, I decided to rewrite them into a little bit simpler path. Bill W., in true alcoholic fashion, complicated the...
Well, what they did, and if you really look into it, if you know that Dr. Bob, I believe, was a Freemason.
Mm-hmm.
So they added some Freemasonic principles in there, which honestly, I like your
Esoteric.
version. I saw your version and you shortened it and you made it more palpable, and it is more like the Oxford. But
Mm-hmm.
honestly, if somebody follows those 12 steps
Mm-hmm.
from start to finish and really puts their heart and soul into it, it's like the path to enlightenment,
It is.
or what they say, Christ consciousness, or whatever you
It
want
is.
to call it.
It is exactly that.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what Dr. Bob added to it, because but yeah, I agree with you. Some of it is redundant, could be shortened, and is not always palpable for the normal human. So let's talk about how you modified that, combining it with the Oxford. You turned it from 6 to 7, from 12 to 7, so it's kind of a combo between. I don't know. Yeah, let's go over your
I, I,
7 points.
so the 7 points, the
I
seven
have
points
them
of
right here.
recovery.
So.
All right, great. The 7 points of recovery, I wanted them to correlate to like the 7 points on a fan leaf. All right,
Oh,
as
okay,
well
that's
as
cool.
as
I
well
like
as
that. I like that.
as well as the 7 chakra or the 7 meridian points throughout your body. These are
Absolutely,
electromagnetic ley lines that exist within you.
dude.
You are an
We're right
electromagnetic
there.
being that is attached to the torus field. To the
You heard
torus
what
field
me
that
and Lou
is
were
what
talking
we
about
consider.
right in the beginning, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we exist within this torus field that is reality, that we consider, that
Yep.
we perceive as reality. So all of these things, I wanted them to tie to each other. The Qigong is energy work. And
Right.
Qigong is a very practiced thing within the Buddhist religion, and
Yep.
who I learned from Master Shanghai, which is the head Buddhist monastery monk in Germany.
Mm.
I probably watched 4,000 hours of his videos. I have done every practice that he has shown or had on his website or on the Shaolin Temple Europe website, and I have literally that's who I studied to figure this stuff out. And
Right.
he was known as the modern. He's known as the modern monk. He was very free giving of all of the information that was stored as esoteric knowledge through the Buddhist temples, which is what they were. They were a knowledge temple. They are not a religion.
Absolutely.
Buddhism is not a religion in any way. That's part of what I loved about it so much, was that it separated religion from my
No
higher
mention
power.
of God.
Well, if you look at the points there, the first thing is we admitted that we could not control our alcoholism, addiction, or compulsion. Okay, so
Right.
I
Okay.
added,
So that goes to ties in with the step one of AA.
yep, step one, and all of these are complete parallel to the 12 steps. It's an exact
Absolutely. I'm
parallel.
reading them right
There's,
now.
there's no separation from the two, other than I made it a little easier to read, I think. And I also added some information that was extremely helpful to me. One was the
Yeah.
compulsory activity, the compulsion being added to this list of things that I'm concentrating on doing. Because
Sex
compulsion,
addiction,
sex addiction,
gambling,
all of the things that are going to release serotonin in your body, anything that releases
scrolling
the
on your phone.
all of it. All of it is kind of added to compulsory activity that I'm paying attention to, that I'm
Yeah.
using mindfully. And actually, since doing this, I don't even own a television that is attached to like a cable channel or anything. I
No,
don't
me
own one.
neither.
I don't
Only
watch. I don't see
streaming.
it. Only streaming, and even streaming, it's only with my kids when they're like, "Well, will you watch this with us?" And I watch it with them. But that's generally the only reason I'm watching anything like that whatsoever. And I'm watching
Right.
information any other time. I'm pulling information. So we get to that first part. Okay, point one, that was relatively easy. I knew, everyone in my whole world knew that I had a problem with,
It's just you have to admit it to yourself.
yep,
Usually
I
the people
needed,
around you notice first.
oh yeah, oh for sure. Everyone around me knew how big my problem was long before I did. They told me about it many a times. I definitely didn't want to
Right.
hear anyone telling me about me, so I blocked that out quite a bit, and
So yeah,
so
step one
coming
is you
in,
admitted you got a problem and you can't control it.
yeah, I
Whether
got
it be
something that I can't control.
alcoholism, addiction, or some kind of crazy compulsion.
And the other part of that is that I do believe in the disease of the mind theory, where we are triggering an allergy of compulsion, right?
Mm-hmm.
By having used to a state of dependency, that transition between use and abuse and then onto dependency. When you hit that dependency mark, you transition to an allergic reaction when you enter that whatever it is into you.
Right.
So that allergic reaction is what allows for the compulsion to take over, and then the addiction or alcoholism or whatever it be to take over. So first business,
that's the first point.
Get you 4 days without substances in your body so that you can at least say, I'm now making decisions. This is no longer the drugs that are telling me what to do. We've developed a lot of protocols since developing the program. We now suggest Suboxone on a rapid detox, 6 days. At the end of the 6 days, you get a Sublocade shot. The Sublocade shot is good for 30 days, and then you don't ever take it again, and it has zero withdrawal.
All right. All right. I want to get to point 2 because I want to move through these. I want to get through them so we can discuss them after. So point 2 is now in AA, I think it is came to believe in a power greater than ourselves.
Yeah. So here, actually, in the original AA text, it said there is one God, you must find him now. That's what the first book said, but they revised that book immediately because they wanted to take that language out. But in ours, it's decide what your definition of the perfect higher power would be and choose something that makes sense to you. Right. And it was a little bit longer. At the beginning, when I first did these, it said decide what your definition of the perfect higher power would be and set aside any predisposing beliefs that anyone has tried to force upon you and choose something that makes sense to you.
Right. So that's why people could say the universe, the source, the high spirit, the great energy, whatever you want to call it, as long as you recognize the fact that there's one source of power and we're all connected to it.
Well, I mean, even if it's not one source, if you have multiple sources.
Oh, yeah, it could be the gods like Hindus. You're right.
And so it's a very open,
nature, anything, yeah,
absolutely, and it's very open to interpretation. The way I did it was, a blank white piece of paper. I wrote down every attribute I thought the perfect higher power would have. When I got done with that, I was amazed and surprised that there was only like 6 to 10 things on that list to make the perfect higher power. And I thought, if 10 things make the perfect higher power, I could, be an okay human being if I only had 1 or 2 of those attributes. And
I have one. Mine is love, man. Just love.
Beautiful.
You have a choice in life. You really do. If you break it down to the yin and yang, you have 2 choices: love or fear. Obviously 3D life here, the matrix system operates on fear. So if you operate from a place of love, then you are operating, in the place, let's say, of God. But anyway,
absolutely.
Point 3. Now you skip the turn your life over, and surrender.
Well, not really. I mean, you've surrendered when you walk through the door. You've already surrendered.
That's true.
Said, I can't do this anymore. Something do it for me.
But I think you might be right in this because step 3 was always a difficult one to comprehend. Turning your will and your life over. That's like very, to the power. So I kind of agree with you.
It was an added step by Bill W. and Dr. Bob.
Yeah, I kind of agree. That was always a tough one.
It's not in the 6 principles. It's not in the 8-fold path to self-mastery. It's not in any of the esoteric teachings that came before that.
It's more religious.
It is very much so religious. And
so again, good job on that. Look, ideally that is true. But however, for somebody who's trying to recover, it is a very high level point to try to get them to understand at the beginning. So it's very good to cut that out. So what you did is you cut that out, but you kept step basic 4, which is the inventory.
Yes. And I didn't call it a moral inventory because, well, at the time I didn't have any morals, so there would have been a very short inventory if we were just going to inventory.
So it's smart because the terminology is true. It's your past beliefs that have come from your experiences. Yeah. So it's you really look at why do you behave the way you do, and if you know anything about how the mind works, it's because of what you believe.
Rationally motivated.
A lot of that is not something you even consciously put in there. It comes, like you say, it comes from your experiences. It comes from what people tell you. It comes from
Inherent
a
learned
million
behavior.
outside sources, and you didn't even put them
Absolutely.
there. And you got to really look in. I mean, not look down, and figure out what those beliefs are that made you be, do the stuff you did, and you got to dig
And we
deep.
guide as well. There's a book that goes along with this called the MMP Baby Steps Guide. That guide guides you through the 7 points. It kind of explains all of these as well, and it also guides through working the points as well. So,
Right.
we don't expect someone just to examine your past and the beliefs, and then for them to understand what they're supposed to put on there. But it does give you an opportunity to write down, the resentments that you've developed over the years, the things that you think people owe you an apology for, the stuff that you probably owe somebody an apology for. All of those things are kind of shining parts of your story when you write down your story of your life. Those things shine out there generally in your own life. You're like, oh, this part, yeah, I could definitely use to work on something happened right there. So that leads you right into the next portion, which is making the amends, making the amends to the people that you can, or the situations that you can, and for the things that you can. And then the end of that was a really important one, which was forgiving yourself for the things that you are not able to make amends for, because there are going to be things on that list that you may not ever have an opportunity to go back and say, well, this is what happened and this is how I fixed it. At least there definitely were for me. I had people on my list that no longer existed. So I had to
Me
be able
too. I wrote him a letter.
and that's a great way to do it. And, as you're making this list and you learn that you're going to have to forgive some of the people on your resentments list that's never going to give you an apology, and you learn to say, yeah, I guess I can forgive that person for it. That teaches you how to forgive yourself for those things that are on your list that you might not get a "that's okay" or an "attaboy" or "I'm glad you've changed" about. You know what I mean? So it prepares you for it.
Yeah, I
All
think
right.
that's the
So,
point. Yeah, go you, Lou. You.
hey, sorry about that. So I don't have a background in the meetings, and I don't have,
Right.
you know what I mean? So I'm hearing this, and I'm taking some examples from religion, church. So I'm seeing that these are philosophies that overlap through anything to make
Oh, yeah.
yourself a better person. I went a different route. I was a very heavy binge drinker and kind of an alcoholic, and I just went cold turkey. And that's hard for some people and
Oh, yeah.
easy for others. I know I have an addictive personality, and I know I wouldn't be able to do it without weed. Like those are like there hasn't been a day I haven't consumed cannabis since I was 16 years old. Do you know what I mean? So like I it's a mental thing, and I know we all go through things. I recently started my own therapy sessions and go through, awakening myself at 40 years old. It all takes time, and it's different times for different folks. But so I want to go through. So where I'm at now is you have a book. We haven't gotten through the steps. Is there any way we can? I want to format this. Is there any way we can finish going through the steps? Because I don't know if we're on 3 or
We're on
7.
4 right now.
We've made it to 4, right?
Okay.
So we're to
And they're in the
amends.
chat, Lou, if you want to
No.
follow
I
along.
want our guests to be able to follow along as well, and then afterwards, maybe we can say which steps were removed from the AA. We're not downing anything. We're not, saying any of the programs are bad or they're just different. And I just would like to know some of the differences.
Well, Joe was pointing out a couple of them pretty well. One of the big ones between the amends, they
And that's about forgiveness. Realistically, if you want to look for something, a characteristic that it's trying to imbibe in you that you may have lost during your binge drinking days, your drinking days, is forgiveness. And that's a key thing. And like Lou was saying, in every religion and every spiritual practice is
That's a
forgiveness.
virtue too. It's one of the 14 virtues.
Exactly.
Forgiveness is actually listed a bunch of different times in the MMP Thought for the Day book, which the Thought for the Day book is actually a 365-day recovery reflection book that has a different reading for each day of the year that goes along with the 7-point recovery book. It has a different point along the pathway of recovery, a different part of the Eightfold Path that coincides with that point, and then also one or two of the virtues that go along with that on each of our
I like
daily
that.
recovery readings. So we can use those, and then we use those in our, we have meetings 7 days a week, twice a day, and we use that reading as our daily reflection to kind of go over one of the points actively live in these Zoom meetings.
Right.
So that there's
I
a
would
little
like to
more.
share these. I'm going to try. You did share these with me in the chat.
I did.
I'd like to try and share them with the listeners. So give me a minute to do that. Why don't
Not
you
a
go
problem.
through point 5?
We will. And point 5, the beauty of it is we're transitioning off of our action steps, right? So in traditional.
All right. So I got it up on the screen now.
Oh, beautiful. All right.
All right. So now we're at step 5. Go ahead.
We're at point 5, and the point 5, we're transitioning out of our action steps for our own recovery, right? So we've made it through the parts that we're trying to learn from, and we're trying to figure out, why did we use in the first place? Why are we abusing these medicines or drugs or people or whatever? And so we've got to that stage, right? We started to make amends for the things that we've done in the past, and we are living a different lifestyle now. So we're no longer making reasons to have to make new amends, right?
No resentments anymore.
No new resentments, because a new resentment is just a relapse waiting to happen. So you want to avoid them if you can, and you do that by stepping into point 5. And point 5 is continuing to grow and change. And along this way, we try to most of the time get them involved in the Growing Sober campaign, which the Growing Sober campaign is where our genetics company, White Glove Seed and Clone Company, provides cheap or free genetics to the new members, and they're able to grow their own cannabis on their own. So that, again, self-sufficiency, self-mastery, it's what we teach.
Big time. Yeah,
we want them to be, and we use growing metaphors as a way to explain recovery throughout this entire book, throughout all of the books. And we are very much using the cultivation metaphors to describe this. And I actually took that page from the Buddhists, and specifically the Shaolin Buddhists, who I studied from, because they used cultivation metaphors in all of their teachings, because they weren't allowed to openly discuss, how to do these different acts and how to do these different, body functions, teaching people how to use their breath work and meditation to access the 7 meridians of your body and then achieve what people call Christ consciousness or enlightenment.
Nirvana.
Through the Kundalini rising, through
Buddha nature, right? Awaken your Buddha nature. I think Hindus, Nirvana.
Physicality.
It's physical. It is. Yes. Right.
People call
I don't want to get too deep into it.
But yeah. Anyway.
But you and I both have. And what I like about what you're doing, and then we'll get back into these steps, is you, unlike what AA does, you incorporate other philosophies into the program itself. So it's not just straight up just these 7 points. It is an additional lifestyle changes that come from other philosophies, so to speak. I don't like to call any of them religions, because they're not. They are, but they shouldn't be. Anyway, but I love it. So let's go to point 5. I think that's a really beneficial thing.
So point 5, we continue to grow and change to be the best version of ourselves that we can be by living this new code of conduct. Well, the terminology would say that we have developed a new code of conduct. How do we do that? The first 4 points.
Right.
Part of the first 4 points is learning what the Eightfold Pathway to self-mastery is. It's living by right mindfulness, living through, right livelihood. There's 8 points along the way.
Right. And people can look that up. It's very popular in Buddhist philosophy.
Yes.
There are 4 noble truths. There's the Eightfold Path. So go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, the 4 noble truths lead you to the Eightfold Path. And the Eightfold Path is the part you walk through changed living, which they just believe, life has suffering. There's a way out of the suffering. The way out is how you live. And how you live is through the Eightfold Path. That's They believe that everyone has the 14 virtues instilled in them as a human. Innately, you have these 14 virtues
We
like
do.
muscles.
We're born with that.
Like they're like muscles, but just like muscles, if you don't ever work out those virtues, they are not very strong within you. There are weak virtues within you. So those aren't what comes to the surface. Other characteristics come to the surface, and that's what you reflect out into the world. So
The
they
vices.
believe, yeah, exactly. And so, but they believe by living this eightfold path and working out these virtues daily in your life, trying to live by right livelihood, trying to live through right action, and so on and so forth, that you could eliminate those negative characteristics and highlight those positive characteristics. And in doing so, you become the highest version of yourself that you could be.
That
And
leads you right into point 6.
that's where we step into point 6, and we become this highest version that reflects the highest version of us by helping out where we can, right?
Right.
And
Helping others.
Help out where you can is a very vague term for a reason, because I help out everywhere, anywhere I can. I went from being a human being who worked for one boss and had to subjugate himself for that person, and that was it. I just had one boss and I worked for them. And I decided to be an entrepreneur, and now every single human being that exists on this planet is my boss, and I work for all of them.
Right.
I have to treat them as such, and in doing so, it allows me to do for them without question in myself, because I know that what's going to come from that is how I survive, is by doing for these others.
Right. Whatsoever you do, the least of my brothers,
Exactly.
that you do unto me. Right. And again, see, there you go. So there's a Christian kind of thing. It all ties in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know,
and I love the last one.
and the end of this is to be grateful, right?
Right.
And to always
Huge
remain grateful.
virtue.
Never forget what it was like. Now, I say that a bunch of different ways. Never forget what it was like, and measure your success by how far back you must reach to help that next person. So that says a few things there, right?
Yeah, that's a deep one.
It says it's deep in a couple ways. I always want to be helpful to all the people that I can. I say this in meetings often, though, that in recovery, you have to be like a lighthouse, right?
Absolutely.
You've never seen a lighthouse running around a beach looking for a boat to save. Right?
No, the lighthouse sits there,
stands on nice, solid ground on safety, pointing a light away from itself towards safety for the boats that are out there in the ocean lost looking for their way to safety. That's how the lighthouse is able to get the boat to safety.
Right.
So at this point in recovery, you step off of being on this lifeboat of I'm not going to make it, right, to you're in recovery. You are able to pass this message along. You are now the lighthouse. You are the one pointing the way to solid ground, to recovery for these boats that are out here in the shores trying to find their way in. And while you do that, you're going to come across people. And I never forget what it was like for multiple reasons. One, I don't want to not have empathy for a person who's still out there actively using. Secondarily, I don't want my empathy to override my intelligence while I'm helping somebody who's out there actively using, because I was a manipulative, destructive, horrible human being while I was actively using. I do also keep that part in mind when I'm out there helping new people, because otherwise you will be taken advantage of as somebody who has a huge heart, who's now made it to this stage in their recovery where they're wanting to pass this message on. You have to keep them not guarded, but keep them knowing that
you're hitting home, brother.
their intelligence and logic does have to come into play while you're out there helping people. Put it to you that way. So and it's a great measurement. You know, when I look back to go help a newcomer the first day that they walk through the door, and I can see the shake in their hand, and I can tell that they don't think they're going to make it to day 5. They don't think they're going to make it to tomorrow, and then they do. It's a great measurement.
Every time I run into somebody like that, it's the first thing I do is the first thing that comes to my head is thank God I'm not like that anymore. And then the second thing is you help this person.
I could be. I could be. That's normally my second thought is like it could be me.
It could be me because it already was. Yep. Because you just hit me deep, and that's very deep right there. Like when you see somebody like that, when you meet somebody like that, I'm sure it's the same with the first thing that comes to your head is gratitude. And it's perfect that that's the last step, because gratitude is like, again, one of the virtues and
Yep.
one of the key virtues to achieving that quote unquote Buddha nature, Christ consciousness,
Enlightenment. Mhm.
the oneness with everything. And again, that ties into what the 12 steps, we can bring it back to the 12 steps. The 12 steps basically takes you along the same path. Again, there were a couple things. One thing that I did like, that I always thought about the 12 step, was the ninth, was that admitted when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Like every time, you know what I mean? You always, right away,
Yep.
you do that. That's the step nine was very key for me. That instant forgiveness. When you make
The
you're wrong, promptly admit it, right? I forget how the exact wording, but that was a beautiful one. But the whole thing, yeah, made direct amends. Oh no, continue. Oh, that's 10. Continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. And
Yep.
that's really important, because that's taking responsibility.
And the
So
beauty of this, all right, so the 7 points, they also go along with the 7 days of the week, right? So, and depending on what year it is, like
oh, that's beautiful.
right now it's correlating beautifully to where we're starting Monday on step point one, we're ending Sunday on point seven. So the gratitude always lands on Sunday. It's kind of it won't be like that every year, obviously, because the 365-day book doesn't start on the same day every year. The year
Yeah,
doesn't
now
start.
tell us a little bit about, because we're running out of time here. Believe
Okay,
it or
all right.
not, we only got a couple minutes left. I want people, because I also, like I said, I know a lot of people who are in this situation. I want people to know how to get in touch with you, how to get those. But those are great. I would love for you to send me like some promotional material about it. I think that's great. The books you have. Tell us a little bit how people can get involved in the meeting,
Okay.
and give us all your info. Right,
All right.
the
So,
stage is yours.
self promotion, run wild. I love it. All right. So
Yes.
the way that you find us, most people find us who aren't on Facebook, is through the website www.marijuanamaintenanceprogram.com. When you go to marijuanamaintenanceprogram.com, one of the first tabs that you can come across, the little gray tag that says "Find Us," will take you right to our Facebook page. And most of the core of our group was built on Facebook. I've been on there since 2009. When I decided to take MMP public, that's kind of where it went first. And so we have a very good following there. Not as much on places like Instagram or any of those other ones. I kind of I focus just on Facebook to put my info out there. But
Well, that's
the
for soul
website,
people.
yeah, it's Facebook is for old people. That's what my kids keep telling me. The the website will take you to the Facebook page, though. Our Instagram is Marijuana Maintenance, so you can find us at Marijuana Maintenance on Instagram as well.
How
The
many
meetings,
meetings a week? Yeah, go ahead.
meetings themselves are 7 days a week, Monday through Sunday, 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Central Time. So that'd be 9 and 7 Eastern.
Well, it's nice.
We have those 7 days a week on Zoom. And so there's to log in through Zoom, you have to either have the Zoom ID, which for our Zoom ID is 401-568-2263, with the password of joint with a capital J. So it's really
Nice.
easy to remember that. That's 401-568-2263. Joint with the capital J will get you logged into an actual meeting. You'll go onto Zoom just like we're on here. And we, have usually 15 to 20 people that are in there, and we go through like a regular meeting would. We go through that daily recovery reading, which is set up very similar to Just for Today or any of those type of meetings, or any of those type of
Yeah, like
readings.
the Daily Word book. I forgot the name of it. But yeah, Just for Today. That was the name of
Today,
it. Yeah.
and then 24 hours and all those different ones. They've got about 18 different kinds of daily recovery readings, every different segment of NA, CA, MMA, all those
Mm-hmm.
ones have their own readings, and I thought we should too. So I wrote a book. It took me about 5 years. I went through every other reading that existed and read them out live on my Facebook page every morning for 4 years, and then I wrote a book about ours.
Well,
So we're down to
wow.
1 minute. I definitely appreciate you guys
No,
for having me
I
on.
would like you to, if possible, Send me all the information, including the Zoom links and stuff. I personally would like to join a meeting and check you out, but I also would like to spread that out to our listeners. And I have a few other people who I know who I'd like to give the links to directly to the meetings. So
Absolutely.
yeah, please send me all that. I would love to see that. I'd love to post it to our listeners. But Joshua, I really, really appreciate it, and I really thank you. You had a lot of great info today. I'm very impressed with your program, and as I said, we do have somebody here in Connecticut who is looking to set up an actual in-person meeting. His name is Mike, and we can put people in touch with that if they'd actually like to do that, because that's probably the next step, is bringing it into in-person meetings. So let's make Connecticut the first one. So that would be great, Joshua. I am in touch with Mike, and we will. Please get me all the info, and I'll spread it. We'll spread the word through our social media and everything else. Lou, are you there still?
Thank you, guys.
Oh, thank you, Josh.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Josh, so much, man. This was very insightful. It's a lot. You're gonna continue to help tons and tons of people. So you're doing what good work, but stay happy, healthy, and high, my friends.
All right, I'm getting kicked off. All right, like, share, subscribe at Joe the Weed Guy, and at Greenhaven Media on Facebook and Instagram. We thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Joshua. Marijuana maintenance program for those of you who are in recovery and are looking for a support system and have felt that you didn't get one since you left AA. All right, thank you so much. We appreciate it.